Oh, there she is. Right in the
Yeah.
neck.
I got my glasses today.
It's all good. Hi, you guys. Welcome, y'all. We have a fabulous show tonight. And again, tonight's topic, y'all can thank Piff because she came up with an awesome topic. And, I'm sure that other podcasts have talked about colorism before, but, the crew has not touched on the subject. And as far as I'm concerned, until we touch on it, it ain't been talked about. So we have a different, unique spin that we normally have. So, hi, Tanya. So we really wanted to hit this topic, and I think it's very relevant. I actually, before the show, talked to my aunts about their experiences with colorism and how it's affected their lives and different things, and just seeing just the whole dynamics of how colorism plays out in people's lives and how it affects our relationships. Troy's not going to be with us tonight, but he sent me a video, and I'm going to lead off with kind of like the point of the video, just to kind of get his kind of get a little bit of perspective. I told him I was going to share this tonight. In the video, it was Sister Soldier was being interviewed on the Breakfast Club about relationships, interracial relationships, and at the end of the video, she said this major point, and it really struck a chord with me. She said, "America is obsessed with race."
They are,
and I was just like, "Wow!" That before I bring him into this thread, just brace yourselves, okay? Because I can't with Horace Towns. But she said she made a valid point, and I think that a big part of what we experience as it relates to colorism, absolutely, I believe, has to do with the obsession. I'm right, CJ, with the obsession that we do have in America with race. So I think that if we didn't have so much of an obsession with race, the way we do in this country, I think colorism would be an issue, but it wouldn't be as big as an issue as it is. It just creates an undertone. And I shared that with my aunt, and she said, "You know what? In America, we collect data more than any other country on this planet, under the guise of research and this and that. But you never really see what they actually do with that data." And I find that probably what that does is only create bigger issues within our communities as people, And so tonight, that's what we're talking about. We're hitting on colorism. We want to thank the last of my kind, Mr. Horace Towns, for gracing us with his presence on tonight's show. We miss everybody. We want to shout out to all of our viewers tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Black Ass Conversations, because I believe that this is definitely going to be one of those conversations. But it's all going to be for the good and reaching a point to where we can build a bridge that that connects us rather than divides us as a people. We got enough to deal with as Black people, just to live and breathe every day. We don't need to be fighting each other. So I'm going to go to Piff because this is her topic, and I'm going to let her lead off with her thoughts about, what was really burning in her to bring it up and say, hey, this is something we need to talk about.
And she got Toni Morrison in her too.
Listen, let me. I mean, would it be better if I did this? Like, if I could just get them straight on my head? I don't know. No, for real. One of my friends actually gave me the topic, and he does watch. He's a fan of the show, and so he said, "Why don't you guys talk about colorism?" And I said, "That's actually a good idea, with all of the things that are actually coming out." And so, one thing that struck a chord with me when he mentioned it was we have songs like Yellow Bone coming out, right? One, I think if you're going to make a song.
Are you talking about Danny Lee's song?
Yeah, right.
We're actually going to talk about that on Code Red on Friday.
I'm not going to give breath to the artist, but I am going to talk about the actual song. I feel like if you're going to make a song called Yellow Bone, one, it's got to be bad. Like, the song needs to have a hook. It needs to be like, you need to just come with it. That was trash. So that was just my thought of the song. But really, she is saying that, I'm better because I'm yellow bone. And if it wasn't a colorist, if you're not coming from a colorist standpoint, you wouldn't make a song calling no. You would not make a song
I'm gonna
named
save it.
Yellow
I'm gonna
Bone
save it for my show on Friday.
if you
Mhm.
did not, if you do not feel, and this is coming from a woman's perspective.
Exactly. That's why
I'm a
I'm gonna
woman,
keep it to myself.
I'm a
Mhm.
woman, and I'm speaking from a woman to woman perspective. You're a male, so you're going to look at it. Your viewpoint is going to be a little different,
You'd be
and
surprised.
I respect that. But
Right,
at the
right.
end of the day, we as women, right, just coming from a female perspective, we
Okay.
have this thing of, oh, she's light, or she, she's really light, and all of this stuff, and um it's been this thing where, oh, she's gonna pull more dudes because she's red bone or whatever. I don't like my glasses on top of my head. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's always been a thing, right, where it seems as though, especially from where I'm from, right, where it seems as though light skinned women always had like a boyfriend. I don't feel a way about whether you're light, dark, whatever, be you, do you. Um, it is what it is. Another thing that resonated with me, just to transition, was that movie with Hattie McDaniel. And she has a mixed daughter. And when Hattie McDaniel's character dies in the movie, the daughter has been called the N-word, and she's running down the street trying to give her last respects to her mother, and she's not able to. And that, when I saw that movie as a child, that really resonated with me. Um, just because she was finally called the thing that she was able to escape for a long, long time, and it finally caught up with her. So there's so many facets to colorism that we could talk for years about it.
Right.
Moving on.
All right, sis. All
What is
right.
her name? Last
Listen
King
here.
or something? I don't even
Listen.
understand. I'm
Listen.
allergic.
And
I'm
we gonna
allergic.
let him explain himself because, oh God, this name here, every time he comes on the show, he come here.
I'm allergic.
You gotta love it, but Jesus, yeah, Imitation of Life is one of my favorite very old
Thank
school
you,
movies,
X
and I've seen
Ray.
it
Thank
a
you. Am I
million times
is it
over.
EK? EK Ray?
E.K. Ray, yeah,
Oh, see, reading is fundamental.
yeah.
No.
The last of my kind. Share with us
Help me, Lord.
your thoughts on this, sir.
Well, thank you guys for having me on another episode of this fabulous show. I'm just so honored to be here tonight. I am the last of my kind. With all the variables going on in this world, I'm the last of my kind. There's not a lot of men left, and I do represent that. You know, the Renaissance man that you guys are used to, the man that opens doors, the man that you've been taught to fantasize and marry. So that is what the reference is related to. But colorism, I love it because it is real, and I don't even think that we understand how we've embraced some of that ignorance.
Come
You
on.
know, for 2 years on Facebook, I don't know if Dr. Hughes remember we had the light skin versus dark skin, and it went viral.
It was
I was
crazy.
I was tearing their ass up with my light skin jokes. I was tearing them up,
Oh
and
my
we were
God.
having fun. But it's just started to, yeah, pause on that one.
Right.
But just saying that it bothered some people, and we were like, we were
Mhm.
just joking around because we've been doing it since high school,
Right.
and elementary school. But when I went around the country and as I started to expand, I just started to see the impact of it. And one thing
Hmm.
that bothered me is when I travel. If you go to Cuba, you go to St. Martin, it all kind of plays into white supremacy. And I know y'all don't
Mhm.
want me to use that word, but that's
No,
how big it is.
It's
a
what it
word.
is. Right.
We
Because
good.
when you look at travel posters and whatnot, you always see the picture of the Caucasian person or the light skinned person, right? And then you go to that
Hmm.
country, you're blown away because you're like, it is black people everywhere. I don't care where you go, but to make it
I'm gonna agree with
marketable,
you.
you don't see travel stuff with a person that would look like myself. You know what I mean? Also, when it comes to dating, even if it's a black producer, we always put emphasis on the fair-skinned woman being the catch. You know what I mean? She's the one that I'm supposed to save, I'm supposed to embrace. When in reality, you have a man like myself, I'm looking at the essence of a woman. I'm looking at the soul of what that woman brings to the table. I give a damn about what color you are because you're black, you're African American. What is inside you? And I think for weak minds, whether it's the music, whether it's the movies, we don't even understand. We start to take in some of that filth. Whether people believe it or not, a weak mind is influential. So when you see the rappers like Kodak and different people say, "Oh, I only date if she's light." I even had to get on my son one day. He was like, "If she ain't light, she ain't right." And then all him and all his friends were saying, and I'm like, "Boy, your mama dark as hell," you know. So where did that come from? But in their culture, in this generation, you got your light-skinned, fair, light-skinned chick, you winning. She's supposed to be exclusive, it's tropical. So there's a lot of ignorance that we are carrying on, and we don't know the impact or the damage that comes from that. So, once you know better, you do better. I'm conscious about the stuff that I say now. But
well, you're right, Horace. I'm actually going to agree with you. When I went to St. Croix, a lot of people think the Virgin Islands is just Hispanics or people who are, if they do show darker skinned people, they make them seem indigenous or like Haitian immigrants. I went there, I saw more white people than any other race, but significantly. I was blown away that there were white people there and that the island was so rich. But the way they make it sound is if everyone is there, that they're indigenous or they come smoking weed and their island, you know what I'm saying? They showed the women being sexual. When you see in music videos, I apologize everybody for the chorus in the background. They're agreeing with us, but, and that.
You didn't feed your dogs today. We know.
You're halfway correct. That's actually what the problem. That's actually what the problem is. Just got to answer the card with dog food. But
come on, Michael.
Anyways, so that's what happened, and I was just blown away. But that's what we're taught. Same thing with Jamaica. When I went to Jamaica, you would think based off of what you see, but yeah. And then they try to make people who are darker skinned seem less intelligent, and that's the biggest thing that irritates me. I don't like that. They make them seem violent, unintelligent, or in a foreign country like they're illegal, undocumented citizens, and that's not the case at all. They have contributed a lot.
But how much do we embrace that stuff? I talked probably 2 years ago, me and Dr. H had a conversation when I was saying we're so indoctrinated that we buy into the American dream. And what's the first thing we do when we get money as black people? Oh, well, I'm about to move out there where the white folks at.
With the white people.
And it's like the money you paying to be somewhere where they don't want your ass at, you could probably buy 2 houses in the hood for that same price. You know what I mean? But it's like we've been taught that everything else is success. Everything else is good except for, don't be around black people. You can be around some red people. I would even go to politics. Let's not be naive that the light-skinned person in politics is more less dangerous. Yeah, you know what I mean? So Obama kind of slid in there with that complexion. Now, if you brung, I can't even name somebody else. He told
me Nyong'o.
Shirley Chisholm, as dark as she was. Come on.
Anybody.
And we would do it. Just not them. I don't know. We would embrace someone because we bought into the stereotypes that we're not intelligent, and it's just ludicrous.
Yep.
Because we have been, like you said, Horace, we've been indoctrinated. Again, it's this fascination with race that we have become brainwashed into thinking that anything lighter on the lighter end of the spectrum is better, and anything on the darker end of the spectrum is inferior. It's a whole lot. But we've been sold that lie, and we bought into it. And so even when it comes to voting and, choosing leaders and, all of that, it really plays into that. So it's really just what you said about how we get this illusion of inclusion. And we end up thinking that, okay, if I go get away from my people,
again.
instead of being there with my people, building my people up. Now we got this great movement, and I think it's fantastic that we have this movement to support Black. But I don't want to just support Black. It needs to be where Black is your first go-to, like it used to be before the illusion of inclusion. We would shop Black owned, period. It's not even about support Black owned. It's shop Black owned, period.
You guys a question.
I should have trademarked that too.
I want to hear your answer on this, and then
go ahead.
Do you think integration was, I don't want to say a mistake, but do you think it harmed Black people? And
I do. Oh yeah,
absolutely. And it was strategic.
Oh, yeah.
It made us believe that we were missing out on something. In reality,
correct.
It was literally opened up
colleges
to slow our advancement. Right after that, right before integration, you had the most doctors, lawyers. I mean, you had the most professionals, homeowners. You had a Black community, group economics, and we were advancing. And then they opened it up, and then they from the after the segregation, you had where we were even bamboozled when they were like, I can't think of what, I just went blank for a second. But when we even now, what's meant for us has even been denied. What was supposed to be minorities was supposed to go to us. It's been sliced into so many slices that we keep getting outsmarted, and it just makes me mad. So yeah, it hurt us. It hurt us. And we didn't.
My answer is real simple. My answer is real simple. Greenwood, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We thrive.
Black Wall Street.
Yep, Black Wall Street. We thrive. If it wasn't such a threat, they wouldn't have burned 9 city blocks of prosperity. And every time we try to go off to ourselves and mind our own business, why is it that the goal is to tear it down, to keep us from uniting? Because at the end of the day, the system, white people fears Black unity. And so colorism is that construct that, they use very subtly, but effectively in this data collection, mining, and their obsession with race to create this great divide. And I think that we come in a rainbow of beautiful colors from, again, from albino to the darkest of midnight black. And it's amazing. And now you have this rush of Hollywood representation matters. So now they want to cast all dark-skinned women, right? I think it's fantastic. But at the end of the day, we need to see each other in every industry. I don't care what industry it is. We need to see it in it and let younger generations see that it's possible, that they can have the same thing. They need to be able to see themselves and have that vision. And I think that part of colorism is meant to, like Horace said, divide us and keep us from advancing and prospering as a people. One of the things my aunt was telling me about colorism that she experienced growing up, that she saw, was how it wasn't just it was definitely more prominent among females, she said, but it was also a sexist thing because growing up, she said, Black men, she said it was an issue among them. For instance, she said darker skinned Black guys could play the sports, but the lighter skinned ones weren't allowed to play the sports, like basketball and football. So it was definitely something among, even when you start looking at, sex. Yeah, it's more prone in Black women, because my aunt, for instance, was super dark. She's super dark and she's gorgeous. And she was out there practicing to be a majorette. But back in the day, she couldn't be a majorette because she wasn't light enough. She couldn't pass for white. She was super dark. My grandmother went and raised hell. And the next year, my aunt was on in the band. She was a majorette. She became a majorette. And she was the darkest and the only majorette at the time. And so if you go and look at yearbooks, high school yearbooks from Black schools, predominantly Black schools, you're going to see the difference in what lighter skin, who could pass for white, could do versus Black. And one was, she said there was like this administrator. He didn't believe that 2 darker skinned Black people should marry or even date, mess his kids up, because he felt that 2 darker skinned people getting together would only create darker skinned people, which was a problem. So in his mind, it was better to mix it and integrate with someone who was lighter, so you wouldn't have that darker shade. And it messed up his kids for life. And so his son took my aunt to prom on purpose because it was important to him. But did it mess them up for life? It did. You know, and they ended up in therapy and went crazy about it. So I think that there's a mindset, like Horace said, there is a full mindset, and it definitely did some damage to us as a people, as black people. But I don't care what end of the spectrum you are. Black people come in every shade. That's why Rihanna came out with every shade of the rainbow in her makeup. And because we're beautiful, whatever we come in, but we got to stop fighting fighting and thinking that just because you're lighter, you're better, or you're darker, you're better, or you're somewhere in between. That's some nonsense.
Or that team
we're passing it down though.
Crap. That team light skin, team dark skin crap. It makes me cringe.
Well, listen, we're passing it down though, Jeff, because simply I know I know women in our era that like bright skinned women, they won't date another bright skin guy. Their preference is a dark guy. You know? So it was, and I would say in the music industry, that is something I didn't understand colorism until I was in the music industry. And then you start seeing girls. I know women that are probably my complexion that will put on enough Pancake 33 to end up looking like Jeff. You know what I mean? But colorism, and when we were casting for music videos and all that stuff,
they have a good one.
Insane how she just read, and it really, that was the starting block, right? And I felt bad because it created a complex in our darker skinned women who will oftentimes do some compromising things because I'm trying to compete with this chick over here that's lighter than me, don't have my talent, but she's getting chose. You know what I mean? Right. She's in the front of the video, and we might get one dark-skinned girl in the back. You know what I mean? Right. But that's us doing it to us.
Right.
Well, as much as I don't like Lil' Kim, I'm going to actually say something to take up for her. We make fun of, she looks like Ronald McDonald now. We can make whatever joke we want.
Because she has bleached herself.
But she has had to do that because at the time, one, it was the whole Faith Evans? She was competing. And then when she was in her prime, people who were also out at the same time as her, they were the ones getting music videos. They were getting record deals. They were getting whatever, but she was actually the most talented.
Yeah, she is.
Unfortunately, she was probably told that she had to do something to change her image. It had nothing to do with her talent. So because of that, she was forced to now do what she's done, and now you literally cannot recognize her. And it has destroyed her. I mean, it has literally destroyed her that all you know about her now is what she's done to herself. So it's sad.
The thing is, colorism gets you here. It's a mental mind game meant to tear you down. But at the end of the day, it's your self-esteem that you have to build up regardless of society or whoever, you know what I mean, has something to say. But I think that's the issue. Pimp, I want you to get in and share your thoughts. My niece Kia is in the comments. If you could share your experiences with us with colorism as a model, because she is a model and I'm sure she experiences some stuff both behind the camera and in front of the camera.
I saw a comment here it is. Alan, he says, is colorism rooted in insecurity?
Come on.
I think
it creates insecurity.
That's a loaded question, so I really want to answer this. I feel like, I think that when we have people that were broken down during slavery, and we're talking like broken people of all colors of black, okay, because they had to break us all to make us what we were. Right. And when we talk about that type of environment, and then you finally get out of the field, for whatever reason, you're out of the field, okay? And you make it into the house and it's somewhat cooler in there. I don't know if that's really a real thing. Like, I feel like temperature is going to be temperature. But I kind of think that we ourselves call ourselves house inwards and field inwards. And there is a huge level of insecurity that has been passed down through generation through generation. And I mean, Alan, you know, that's my really good friend. Like, that's my homeboy. I'll be like, Alan, I question whether or not you black. not because I know he's not black, but because Alan is a very fair, and
Right.
he knows that I love him. He knows that he knows I love him, and he knows that I know he black. But sometimes I just joke with him. I'm like, where are you black at? Like where? And and I just tease him. But realistically, if all jokes aside, that could be very hurtful. My joke could be perceived as mean, cruel, and unusual punishment.
Right.
And Alan could take offense to that. And it is a form of colorism. So I can't sit here and say that I have not participated in colorist actions, right? I think the way to get this is by acknowledging that we all have participated in this. And then when you acknowledge,
don't put me in that. I see no color.
Well,
I've been chastised for dating white women. So no, I don't. I'm not in that.
But again,
Yeah.
yes,
there have been colorist remarks that definitely have been made. Right. And even on this show, if you go back and you listen, we can all listen. There are certain things that some of us have said. I will speak for myself. Okay, so I won't point the finger at anyone but myself. I will say acknowledging for myself and becoming better by myself will help, hopefully, other people, like modeling for other people, and hopefully that will trickle down and make other people be better. I think that is going to be a really good thing.
I'm not going to act right.
I want to get into this point that Alex is making, and I think a lot of other people, might be able to relate. But he said, "I've even wanted lighter skin at one point growing up. I had a self-reflection and realized my worth and beauty in the hue of my skin." That's where it starts. Like Piff was saying, accountability. It starts within here. That question was absolutely loaded about whether colorism is an issue of insecurity. I think it does one of two things. I think it, like Horace said, it can create insecurity, but I think it also, when it's passed down from generation to generation, I think it's also rooted in somebody's insecurity. I also think it's rooted in fear, fear that black people, especially, I think that it's rooted also in a fear that if you're lighter and could pass for white, you won't experience the hardships and issues that people on the darker end of the spectrum experience. Which is a fallacy, because my aunt is darker than dark. She's really dark, but she was like, her whole life she didn't experience colorism. It was how she carried herself and how she treated people that allowed her to succeed in life, and she didn't have those issues. I think that at the end of the day, you just got to have respect for yourself, like Piff said. But there's a lot that goes into colorism, whether it's insecurity or fear. So we're definitely going to get into some of these comments because y'all are amazing. This is a great topic. Kudos to Piff's friend for suggesting it. We thank you. Horace, go ahead and get in there, babes.
That's what she said. Y'all didn't get the joke.
Oh, wow.
You guys truly are not sharp. Listen.
I can't stand you for that. No, I got the joke. It was just.
I got it. It just wasn't timely. It's just not timely.
I was too busy taking a sip. Go ahead.
Moving on.
Well, I didn't know Dr. Piff was going to be here tonight, but listen, let's be honest. We've already talked about colorism, and we've talked about it from one standpoint. I don't even know at this point if we've embraced it so much that we're actually playing into the stereotypes of it, right? So why do I say that? Yeah. We do have jokes that are related to stereotypes about dark-skinned guys, light-skinned guys. So if Piff was going on a date with me, she's probably going to be subconsciously feeling more safe with me than as compared to Jeff. You know what I mean? Or, the jokes that we have about like light-skinned dudes acting really emotional and really rakish.
I get what he's saying. Because for instance, Piff, dark-skinned people have been. There's a.
You get what I'm saying? Now?
They're more violent or more thuggish or more rough-looking or rugged, and a light-skinned person is more timid. We're more about looking pretty. We don't fight, and so you would say, I'm not being funny when I say this, but say we were to go downtown Miami, or in our case where we live, Southeast DC. You would probably feel safer with Horace going on to Anacostia, walking to the train station.
Ooh, Anacostia, sir.
Where if you want to date with me, you know I'm
I've
staying
been down there
in my
with Alan.
city.
Alan is light, and let me tell you something. Let me say this. Listen. Let me say this. I'm gonna interject real quick, Horace. I'm gonna let you have the floor. I have been to the club with Alan, and I have had a man rip my shirt down like this, and all my like down. And Alan has grabbed people, has pulled people off me. So for me, it's more of a stature thing. Do you have weight on you to if anything coming at us?
Prove people wrong.
Like you got to be a little bit thick.
Right.
You gotta be tall. You gotta be thick. You gotta be able to throw them bows out. Like, and I'm not looking for no trouble, but you gotta work out. Hang out with me because stuff be happening to me.
Yeah, no, but I think that your point is, I think both of you have a point in that. Here's the thing: if we get past this old light skinned people can't fight or they weak, other than black people, darker, they gonna always stay strapped. That ain't necessarily true. I like this point that Alan said. This is a fallacy to be told that you're not dark enough to understand black discrimination. If anything, I think that all black people on every end of the spectrum experience some type of discrimination, whether it's within our race or outside our race. And again, I feel like it goes back to our obsession in the United States with race. When we can stop being obsessed with race, okay? I think that we can start dealing with these issues, but this nonsense about, light skin can't do this, dark skin can do this, that ain't true. That's like saying that women can cook and men can't cook. That's a lie, because I know some men that can throw down in the kitchen.
Me too, honey.
You know what I mean? Go ahead, Norris.
No, I was just saying, we laugh about them, but we actually carry those on. Me and Dr. H date, we break up. I'm the one that's just home drinking a 40, like forget her. And in stereotypical form, Jeff would be the one over there writing poems and songs, crying or something like that.
And I'm not sensitive.
Like Drake.
They don't know that.
Drake is a wimp. It has nothing to do with him being light skin or dark skin. He's just a wimp. But
he's Canadian.
He's a wimp. Whatever he is.
We're gonna move on.
Drake, you all right with me, Drake?
Drake is
I think this point is very valid. It's what the media is telling us what is beautiful and what to be accepted. And I think that this is the key. We got to stop giving power to external forces and bring that power back within our own community. I think that's how we bridge this and make that bridge that we have to connect us rather than let that bridge divide us. I think if we get to that point where we, within our own collective society, within ourselves, say we define, us, and we say what's beautiful and not allow all these outside constructs to define what makes us beautiful and what makes us worthy, like Alex said, of attention and appreciation. It is what it is. It's kind of like make your own way. Listen, Kev, you don't have to like Kev on stage. Some people don't find him funny. Some people do. But let me tell you what he did in the pandemic. Brother made his own way. Why? You ain't got to sit and wait. I think that what he's created was the blueprint of saying, when somebody's not going to give you a chance, make your own way. And that's what that's the genius of black people, period. On every end of the spectrum, albino or darker than darker, this is who we've been for generations. You can take it back to Egyptian days in the Bible. That's why they're constantly digging up black people. You don't see them going to Israel digging up bones of old dead white people. You don't see them going to Belgium and Germany digging up bones of old white people. They go to Africa and dig up our ancestors to study our people, because that's
look at the movie Get Out.
And when we really get into that, we won't allow these other constructs to tell us what's valued. You know what I mean? We got it. We are geniuses. Period. Point blank. More than half of the inventions on this planet come from some type of black concept or idea.
Look at the movie Get Out.
I want to say this: if
you being too
you
nice.
think about this, right? If you think about this, it took a lot. Like, first of all, we were brought, well, and I won't say all of us. Some of us were brought to a country where we had no education. We were educated differently, right? So they indoctrinated us into their education. It has now taken us hundreds of years to get past a certain level of education, whether we're women or men. And I say as a collective in America, we are the most educated people in America because Black women hold that title. Okay. I don't care. As a collective, we are the most educated. So
yeah, that's statistically, that's part of those statistics that they collect.
It is. So let me say this. Now that we are educated, now we need to be willing to understand and learn from each other and make things better for each other. And really be like we do in the show, we have open dialogue. Open dialogue is a beautiful thing. And yes, some of our feelings will be hurt, and you'll feel a type of way, but as you reflect, you learn, and that's it. Sorry, Jeff. Didn't mean to cut you off.
To your point, I don't even know if this is your point, Pip. I hate when people say that, like when you'll see like professors say Africans came to this country uneducated, and you taught us what you wanted to teach us, which was indoctrination. When in reality, African American people of color we were brought here because we knew how to build civilizations. Chemistry comes from Kemet. Everything that they have learned, they took it and renamed it, but it was stuff that we had already
no, that's exactly what I said. It was we were indoctrinated within their educational system.
Right.
Like that's why our children have an issue with reading.
Because we don't teach critical thinking. We don't teach people to think for themselves. And the genius of Black people, the genius that we have, at least growing up for me, and that Horace and I grew up is, we learned before we came to school. And teachers, we heard it in class, like, oh, how are you so eloquent? How do you read so well in the first grade? Because we didn't wait. We started at home.
Well, who do you indoctrinate?
Well,
prisoners of war.
The part about thinking for ourselves actually is a lot of things, like you said, we were taught, whether it's political views, I'm not going to go there, or certain things you say and don't say. But one of the biggest things that we talked on another show is how we talk to the police and white folk, and certain ways to carry ourselves. We cannot. We have also been trained to be a certain way and speak a certain way.
Because again, we're taught to be fearful of white people and to be inferior. And to be inferior. So like you said in the last show, we had to learn, we have to teach our Black sons, 10 and 2 and nothing else. But what I mean? It's all of these different things. Go ahead.
What I was saying was, on top of that, then when we were, like in my case, I grew up, started private school and stuff. Then when I did go to school and I started going to public school to Black kids and I spoke eloquently, I was called not Black enough. And they did, and I didn't wear certain clothes. So it's not just color and contrast, but it's just not acting the part. I literally was not accepted by the Black community until I was an adult. And
I understand. I was called Oreo my doggone self.
Me too.
Somebody actually
I don't know why.
Made a comment here. No, somebody actually made a comment, Jeff, about what you just said about, I think it was Alex. He made a point about, if you sounding white, if you're educated, you sound white. There's how do you sound white? That's confusing to me. And I think I hate it because Black people use that. Like, oh, you sound white. Excuse me?
They're the main ones. If you don't think like, talk like, or do anything that most Black people do, you are either, like today's terms, you are canceled, you are seen as an Oreo. And I don't know if it comes from jealousy or just not being able to fit in. But I know the people who used to do that to me growing up, well, I'll have a number 6. That's what I say to them now.
So let me ask you something.
Listen.
Back to programming. Go ahead, Piff.
I think, as someone who's been called Oreo as well, and by everybody, whether they were Black, white, whatever, you don't act Black, like everybody. I've had white students tell me, Miss, you're not black. You are white. Like, yes.
But listen,
So,
no.
Piff,
because
was this in New Mexico or here?
this was here. This
In
was
Baltimore.
here. This was here.
In Baltimore.
And, Miss, you are not black. You are white.
Wow. God can see
But
in
Like, and then
you don't
when
like
I
urban.
say, or when I say, hey, I'm black, no, Miss McCann, you are not black. They go down to the hue. You are caramel, because sometimes you in the winter you get lighter, whatever. Hues change, whatever. So
Right.
no, you're toffee, you're this, you're that. I've been called all of it. I just think it's very interesting.
Right. Hey,
You know,
Candy CD, we miss you.
it is what it is. We've all. I feel like at some level, and I think the best analogy of all of this is that movie, The Imitation of Life. She didn't get called the word until later in life, and she was able to float through life and act as if she was someone else. And she embraced that. She embraced, okay, well, I am this.
Just
and
like
she got called
in
something
Queen by Al
at the
Taylor.
end of the movie, and she was like, dang it, I am now this. And her whole identity and who she was changed. So we need to figure out who we are and identify for ourselves first.
No, we need to tell our own story.
I want to get to some of these comments. Go ahead, Horace.
Yes, these comments are
Bill's point, because
I agree, Horace.
We talk about TV and we think TV is harmless, right? But look what we grew up on as compared to what's on now. It's programming. And let's be honest, Dr. H, stop being nice. A majority of America are damn idiots. They're influential. If the news said it's true, I can't get people to come out. I'm volunteering at a school, but I can't get somebody to come out because I'll have parents that tell me, oh, Real Housewives are on tonight. You know what I mean? So the thing that really got me with colorism was when I would be out at the country club, somebody like, when I was speaking, people like, oh, you speak so well. And I would be kind of blown away, but I got used to it. We should never embrace ignorance, but that's just a fact. But indoctrination goes back to our education. Every day we're made to stand up and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag and republic. All of that is indoctrination because a lot of stuff that they taught us is false. Whether it's Christopher Columbus, they taught us stuff that was truly false. And it's up here now. And even though we know what's true, we can't release it. Listen, as a elementary kid, my grandma told me, you tell them people you didn't come on no slave ship. And she was right. My grandmother could trace our history back. She's Native American. She could tell the years. She could tell you where the tribe was, from New Orleans to Oklahoma.
Arawak.
She knew it. She said, we didn't come on no slave ship. And then on the other side, my goddamn granddaddy, Dr. Hughes, he looked like Colonel Sanders. I'm like, well, who's this tall white man, that he had to hide the fact that he married to a white woman. Every time he go to town, they knocking his ass out. You know what I mean? Here comes Joe Jenkins with his N-word kids,
Right.
So when people talk, I'm like, you see this, but you don't know. We've been so entangled that colorism, and my point was, my aunts that were fair skinned, they got treated like queens. And the boys, the dark skinned, they had to go work in the field and all that stuff. So that colorism, it is just amazing. But we have carried it on, and we got to break those things.
Yeah, from one end of the spectrum to the next. And I got it in my family, within my own family. So Alan made a point here about how we associate sex drives and sexuality with skin tone. It's crazy. Candy, we love you, girl. We see you. We appreciate you. You're not late. You always on time. You get in where you fit in. This point, Alex talks about self-hate. It is one of the forces that's used to oppress us, and an uneducated Black person is no threat and leads no purpose in true life. And sometimes, yeah, I like what Alan says here. We often help whites define us by the things that the trends. You got to understand that when it comes to collecting data, especially market research is not used for you. It is used against you to get you to move into a certain direction. It's again, it's indoctrination, but it's used to manipulate you to a specific end. You know what I mean? It's not always about what you're thinking. Go ahead, Horace.
Before I go back to that comment, I can't read it. Alan, I've heard many females say dark-skinned men are better lovers. Oh, Alan, that's true. That's okay, facts now. That's science. That's science, Alan.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway,
that's what
you talking about this science. We're not doing that tonight. My sister spoke extremely proper English, and this is true. And what my mom is saying here, she was a spectacle to my grandmother's friends, other Black people, because they were shocked that she would speak the Queen's English. Like my sister was like my grandmother would take my sister to Tea Time and Burt Reynolds Theater. And so to them, because like Horace said, she wasn't hood. You know what I mean? She wasn't ghetto. She wasn't doing Black things. She was kind of like this amazing, phenomenon. And it's like, no, my grandmother believed that we needed culture in our lives. And for some reason, if we got culture, we weren't Black enough. No, and our skin color didn't have anything to do with it. So it's really kind of interesting to see how, again, within our own community, these are things that help us. Alex is right. We teach the ideal of education being a problem, and our culture promotes ignorance as a benefit. That's true.
Cardi B.
Correct. Being in a family that you refer to as Black versus the Black.
Can you go back to that comment really quick? Because I want to speak to that real quick.
Go ahead.
That's true though. Look at the city girls. The city girls.
There's just a little thing that happened this week, and I just want to touch on it, and we're gonna move on. So there was an article about a school in the district that I work for, where the mom is saying, I have all these kids. Well, she says she has, I think 4. She's the mother of 4. She has 3 jobs, and her son has a 0.13, and he is supposed to graduate this year.
What?
She says that the school, listen to me, just follow along.
But you said 0.13. So I heard you right.
A 0.13. He's in the upper, no, hold on. Let me finish. He's in the upper 1/3 of his class. So that is where the school failed. This is not, for me, this is not what I have an issue with. As a Black mother, okay, myself, I have an issue with the fact that you have 4 children. 4. You have an 18-year-old son who you gave absolutely no responsibility to say that he has a 0.13 and he is not going to graduate. On top of that, the school system calls you when your child is marked late. They send you report cards, progress reports. So none of that was looked at for 4 years. But the
I'm
school,
on the 0.13. I'm on the GPA.
Maybe it's the humiliation
your
that it
son
held
is
back.
272 days of school in the past 4 years. I have a problem with all of it. All of it.
What is his goal? What's he doing next? What's her plans with him next? That just upset me because I'm an educator.
You know what? One, this is what I have an issue with. I have an issue with the fact that we, as a people, regardless of where you live, okay, because this is not a place where people have a lot and whatever. But regardless of where you live, it is talked about, oh, well, they can't do anything for themselves and they don't. No, you can do something for yourself. So why is it allowed for you to be ignorant? Why? Why is this okay? And you have no responsibility for this particular issue. Like, I I totally agree with this, Alex. I totally agree. You cannot turn around and blame what is going on in your household on someone else because it starts at home first. Okay, freshman year, I could maybe understand because people fail freshman year all the time. After
Of
freshman
college?
year of high school, this is of high school. If after freshman year, if you don't get it together, you already know it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Community
We
college.
all we know people with that story that spent 3 years
Fixing
in
your
high
GPA.
school making up for freshman year because they was like, oh, I don't
Really,
know.
really, Piff,
We
it's most of the time 2 years because by 12th grade, college selection, yeah. So
but
you're right.
but some people the college will make a deal with you if I see this certain GPA by your last transcript. I know some people that had that happen. So what I'm saying
Conditional
is
acceptance.
as a responsible, we need to stop letting off. We need to hold everybody accountable. We can't say just because you're educated. No, there's so many things that we're giving out for free. Like this past year, there is no reason for us as a community to have the failure rates that we do in our own households.
Come on.
Your children are with you.
Yeah.
No. Hold on. Your children are with you. I'm like this. I feel away right now. Your children are with you. You could not blame anyone but yourself. And in school years, we have been out for a year and a half. We have been out for a year and a half. Think about this. The term we got out March 13th of last year. By the end of last semester, that first COVID era of quarantine, teachers were willing to work with you. Okay, yes, we know you may not have a computer at home. Can you do this on your phone? Can you do that on your phone? You could have got any kind of grade. So he should have had 2.5 credits and a 0.3. So you know what you're building at home. I'm gonna just say he should have had more going on, and you can't blame anybody else for what's going on inside your home, especially during quarantine. We have failure rates in our community, and we are not taking responsibility for our children doing right.
Agree.
If you have a nephew or whatever, you need to sow positive seeds into them. And I'm done. I'm off my soapbox.
No, I agree with you, Pip, because if you know anything about me and Horace, we're really big on mentoring. Like, I think that there comes a point that, again, this is why this conversation is so relevant and important, because we got to figure out how to use that bridge that divides us and use it to connect us and help one another. And yeah, there are statistics out there, and there are studies that show that Alan is talking about, that light-skinned children are more likely to go to college because of white education perceptions and norms. There are real studies out there. You can find them because, again, it perpetuates this myth. But just because you speak well does not mean that you're educated or that you're better than other people.
Articulate.
Right. But I agree with you 1,000%, Pip. There's no excuse for children to fail. How do you have a 0.13? I'm stuck on that, because what are you doing as a parent to get your child the support they need to succeed in class? Because you home, all you got to do is log into a computer and do your work. You got to be accountable as a parent to your child and not put the blame on other people. And again, if you don't know, get you a mentor, get you support. It's too many support organizations that can help that. But you got to want to be an active participant in your child's life. And too many of us, we're too busy trying to do it for the gram and the Vine and TikTok and everything else rather than be there for our kids. And at the end of the day, you over there doing freaking videos and you dancing and all of this behind your kids while your kids on Zoom live in class. And while that might be cute for Instagram, your kid getting points knocked off because you being stupid as a parent.
So I can actually chime in real quick.
Go ahead.
If I can get a word in edgewise. But I
go ahead.
Sorry.
Cliff, what you said, it's fine. You are a teacher and you see this. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you.
I almost said something offensive, Jeff, and I apologize.
What about me?
Yeah, I'm about to say all that light skin stuff. See how we be saying ignorant stuff? I'm sorry. I'm about to say
Because it comes natural. You get caught up into it. You get caught up into that mode.
we are. And we giving examples. Go ahead, Jeff.
It's all good.
My brother.
No, they're the subject matter experts on this, but I will say I did work at KIPP DC for a year, and I ran special education compliance. So I saw test scores, and we had to do a lot of testing and based off of income and all that. I kid you not. There were kids who literally, I was in a classroom one time, and I heard a kid blatantly say, I was told that if I do not pass, he was like, my mom said, I cannot keep doing good in this class. I have to fail this test, or else I have to go to a better school, and I will not get welfare. You know, that's how it is. The more fun.
It's the system. I had
no, that's not true. It's not welfare. It's not welfare.
Well, whatever it is. Not well, that's what the kids
I will say, what it is that. So no, it's not welfare. So I'm going to say
repeating what the kid said. I know it's not. I'm repeating what the kid said. He does not know.
Okay, so you know what it is. You know what the service is.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, okay. I know all that. Trust me, especially in Ward 7 and 8.
What we're teaching, basically, what some parents, and I'm not going to say all, but what some parents are teaching their children is to work the system. Rather than just and they grow up to be employees like some of the ones I had when I was managing a hotel in DC. I had a candidate who applied for a position in my hotel. We played very well, and they said, I make more at home on unemployment. I'm just doing this.
I was just about to get there.
She said that to me in an interview, point blank. She said, y'all pay good, but she said, I'd rather sit at home and collect unemployment because I make more at home drawing unemployment and getting assistance. I don't want to work. Said this out of her mouth.
Yes, that's not surprising.
It's a mindset for sure.
No. And the last thing I was going to say, a lot of the parents too wanted their kids, like you were saying, they literally told their kids, look, just do the bare minimum to just graduate. And once you're done, you can apply for food stamps, or you can have kids and you can get more food stamps and money from the government. I think I understand, because their mindset is these kids don't have a lot of chances out there. I get it. But at the same time, you want to empower your kids. Do not enable them.
Right.
And that's one thing I will never do. I don't, anything below a B is unacceptable. It's not always going to happen, but at least it makes them think twice before they slack off.
Right.
Don't be friends going to play basketball after school.
I think that colorism plays. I think the colorism plays a big part in that, Jeff, though, because I think that when you're on the darker end of the spectrum, you're told that you got to play sports. That's your only way out. Versus when you're on the lighter end of the spectrum, your brains is your key. So on one end of the spectrum, you're told that education is your key. Your brain is your key. On the other end, you're told sports is your only way out.
Yep.
And I don't agree with that, but that is
or drugs or
right.
Or drugs.
Well, I will tell you, I had a student that could not read at all. Star quarterback football player.
What grade was he in?
I can't listen.
No, I'm not being funny because it upset me.
He was in 8th grade. No, he was in 8th grade. But
okay,
he was in 8th grade at this point. But then something happened, and this child lost the ability to play football.
Right.
Damn. That's it.
The year that I had him in class, I said, this is the year you need to learn to do these things, right? Yes, it's hard. It's not easy. It's frustrating because you read at a certain level. I think the issue is that we are telling our children, we're indoctrinating our children in certain behaviors and trends that are not, they're not productive. Right. And then like Horace really talks about this a lot. The Cardi B City Girls era, where we have these people coming up, and I'm even looking at them like, okay, this is a little extra. And so, at the end of the day, I may go out or whatever, do whatever, but I still have a thought process up here, and I know the difference between right and wrong.
Yep.
Right. I just think that we as a community We need to start, if we see something in the store, we need to start saying stuff again. Like, I feel like it doesn't matter if someone says don't say something to my kid, say we're a community and we need to start like a revolution. We need to start like a community.
Question. Is it true?
You're talking about the village that Horace talks about. It's that village.
Quick question before we continue. Sorry. Let me ask if this is true. My parents used to always tell me that back when they grew up, if you got in trouble at school, your neighbors would beat your ass.
Yes.
Is that true?
That happened to me, so I don't know what you're talking about. That's the village. That's the village.
Yes.
Baby, that's the village.
The whole like neighborhood would lie, and then you didn't want.
True.
Let me tell you something. Wow. You didn't want Jimmy Bob down there to find out you did something bad because he gave the worst whooping.
Or live near the Good Times family. Can you imagine James?
No, I couldn't do that.
No, I couldn't do that. That would scare me to do right all the time. No, but real talk, though, seriously, that's the village that Horace is talking about. It was a whole concept of where,
my neighborhood.
When you start talking about the village like Horace was talking about, it didn't matter. You respected whomever was in that village. I didn't care if there was light, bright, could pass for white, or dark and could get lost in midnight darkness. You respected whomever that person was in your village, in your community, to correct you, discipline you when you were out of pocket. And if you said something, and even if you disrespected somebody within your own community, for instance, like, you call a darker skinned person, you made a slur against them, they knock the taste out your mouth. For what? How dare you tear down somebody in your own community? What is wrong with you? That's the kind of thing that I think we need to help, again, build that bridge. Well, not say build that bridge, but actually change the bridge so that it's a connector and not a divide.
The reason why I say that is because of Candy said. Okay, got you. So the reason why I say that is because of what Candy said. She's saying she's calling all time today to keep her son in check. Right. She says, thank goodness she has a mom who's a teacher, a retired teacher. So what I'm saying is, we can't on one hand say it's the school's fault, it's somebody else's fault, and then when someone turn around and tell your child in the store, don't put your mask up, or
say not to my kid.
Stop cussing. Stop twerking in the store. Like, act like you have some sense in your head. Anything, right? Come on. Like, you can't have it both ways. You cannot. You're gonna either have help or no help. This doesn't work. It's not the same thing. So, just to answer Alan's question, yes, Black people have colorism issues. Have you heard of redheaded stepchild? That is a real thing. They would put they would put them to death if they came out with red hair because they believed that they had the devil in them. Yes.
So I want to kind of round out our conversation talking about how colorism has impacted our lives as Black people. Has colorism caused you to lose or miss out on something that you really wanted, whether it's a relationship or a job or even a house? Because colorism, we know that racism plays a big key in the valuation of a home. But what if you're in a predominantly Black community? How does colorism affect the valuation of your home, or even your ability to get promoted and how you're treated at work or a relationship? How does colorism affect obtaining the things that you want? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Because I gotta do something about this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Answer your first question. Yes, I have dated and have been told that I am. Literally, I took a girl out. This was like in college. We went on a magnificent date, went on the river walk, everything. She told me I was the nicest guy that she's ever been on a date with. Said it was a magical night, and had the nerve to tell me, "You are not." She said, I came from privilege, and she said, we're too much alike, and I'd rather have a rougher dude. Or she didn't say those words, but you know what I'm trying to say. She said,
she had an image.
She wanted Dravion from South Houston, and she even said, she said, I want to do with dreads and who's a little thuggish and rough. And she said, I want a baller like that. And I just said, wow. Well, I'm not going to go there right now, but now, about fast forward 10 years later, She has about 5 kids. He's in jail. And last I heard, she was online doing a GoFundMe asking for money not to lose her apartment. So that's not to insult her or say I told you so, but it's just you can miss out on a really good guy, or you can miss out on opportunities being narrow-minded or seeking something that just because you wanted to have the image that that dark-skinned man that had dreads was going to be with your fantasy. And yeah,
perception. I think sometimes colorism really does skew our perception of what we as a rainbow of people can offer. Because I know some light skinned thug dudes that don't have no problem doing time.
Me too. They scary.
I got a brother that have no problem doing time. Mess with my niece if you want to. He done rolled up on people in Facebook comments and let you know. I'm like, sir, I have to tell people, sir, I'm gonna need you to back up off this comment. I'm gonna need you to back up off her page permanently because he ain't got no problem. Like, I'm gonna need you to go away. You know what I mean? So I think that we do within our community have this mindset into thinking that, only dark-skinned dudes strap. You know what I'm saying? Carry a strap or have a certain perspective. And it goes back to back in the day when you had Rough Riders and DMX and, you know what I'm saying, where you had the New York dudes that wear Timbs and you got the Method Man. But then you got Redman who was right there with him. But Meth got a lot of attention. But what happened to Redman? He was right there with him wearing the Timbs and had the whole image. I think that, again, colorism gives us these unrealistic, crazy expectations and thoughts about people that are not real. You know what I mean? And it really messes with you and causes you, like you said, Jeff, to mix out on somebody. Horace, go ahead. I'll go to you next.
No, come back to me. I'm in 2 places at once.
Okay, Piff, go ahead.
What was the question?
The question was, has colorism caused you to lose out on something that you really wanted, whether it's a person, a relationship, a job? Has it affected maybe your home valuation, car, credit, whatever?
Well, stick with me. We'll skip Piff.
Okay, go ahead.
Just recently, I want to tell a story about a home purchase. I was looking at a home. It was a house. It was in great. It was the house I wanted, correct? And went in, walked around, like, yeah, I want it. The people that were selling it were foreign, and even though you're not supposed to do this, it's just realistic. They had so many questions for my realtor. What does he do? Like, once they weren't supposed to be home, but I viewed it while they were home. So I don't like to do that. But once they saw me, in my mind, I didn't get the house. They went with a different offer, and that's like, no way you could have not chosen the offer that I gave you. But that happens in our community because we're controlling the neighborhood and whatnot. So in reality, when they seen me and they seen I'm a young black guy, they had these personal questions. Hey, is it just
they
you?
Assumed you were a drug dealer.
Wow. Right. So even the
they assumed you were a drug dealer.
Right. But as long as you get that check, why you worried about me? But that's it happens all the time where they're controlling communities, and your prejudice is to the point where you trying to decide who moves into a home that you no longer want. That is insane. But those are the kind of things we deal with. But
Well, you guys might not like my answer to this, but that's all right. So
answer.
Because I've always been a fighter, and not physically, but everything I've had to fight for, whether it was or work very hard for, I should say. I probably have been affected by it, but because there were other things that I was fighting against, I may not have noticed that it was a colorism issue. And when you're fighting against many odds, colorism is the last thing you're going to think of.
Right.
So I will say it for myself. One thing I'm thankful for, I think that everything that has been for me, it hasn't been like easy, but it's been enough for me to know that this is the way I should move, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I again, if a door has been closed, I always have to remember that's not the way I should be moving, and it's probably to my betterment.
Right.
Have I had some issues at work because I had a little too much attitude in my earlier 20s? Yes. Did I learn from my mistakes? Absolutely. But I think that the thing is that well, one, I didn't like do all this, and I wasn't walking around doing all that. That's not me. But I think that there were times where I could have definitely acted in a manner that speaks Black woman and not a hot mess.
Okay.
And
that can go with anyone.
reflection is a beautiful thing. And I'm reflecting on myself. I think that we all have things that we can work on. But for me, there's just always been there's always been something that outweighs me being this color. It could be,
Right.
I would say, you know what? I will say, one of the, what would we call him? The big boss. Let's just call him the big boss. When I started my locks, he said, "Why did you do that to your hair?" So I guess that could be a form of colorism, right? Because I did go for a supervisor and I didn't get it. So it could have been because I had started my locks and I kind of looked like the porcupine head. But at the end of the day, that was not supposed to be my career path. My career path is in education, and it's very different. Yeah. So
What y'all do to Kip? Rose, I'm gonna need you to do better.
Speaking of colorism, the dark skinned dog and light skinned dog can't get along because they both want my attention. And the light skinned dog thinks the dark skinned dog needs to move out the way. See, colorism happens in the animal community too.
You need help. You need help. I don't even know.
You need help. Jesus. I want to get on two things that Alan is saying.
Dr. H,
I want to hit on two things that Alan is saying. This one here, where he says some blacks will call that light skin privilege, but that's one thing, and that's true. Again, that's part of the colorism piece. We think that light skinned people have it better or easier, but I just think they just have different. They have different challenges.
Can we address that comment that Alan just said about HBCUs? I'm sorry, Dr. H.
I'll get to this one. I'll get to that. I just want to finish the last one.
Something to say because
I think that I don't think that there are light skin problems or dark skin problems. That's the issue with colorism. It's a mental mind game. It's just black people problems. And that's where we need to get to. People have their preference, but it's rooted in a lot of different things. I think it goes back to that loaded question of, is colorism rooted in insecurity? It probably is, and it probably affects how people date. And I'm going to get to the video that I sent to Piff in a minute. But I want to hit this comment that Alan placed in here about HBCUs and being afraid to go into an HBCU because his high school friends made him feel less black, so he didn't even apply. Let me tell you something.
Please.
I want to personally apologize to you for that because I went to an HBCU, obviously. I went to Tuskegee. That was the best experience of my life. And I experienced a rainbow of blackness and black unity that I had not experienced since I had lived in South Florida, because part of when I grew up, my mom got we moved and I went to Charlotte, North Carolina. So I ended up graduating high school in Charlotte. I went from a predominantly black school here in South Florida to a school that was 60 to 70% white. That's a color shock for somebody like me. So I knew straight out the gate I was going to an HBCU because I had an elementary school teacher called Mrs. Burke. And Miss Burke introduced us to HBCUs. And that's where I fell in love with HBCUs. We had somebody in our community that championed it. And every week, Miss Burke would talk about an HBCU. You pick your choice. And so I am so sorry that you had that experience, that people made you feel that, feel that you were less black and that HBCUs weren't for you, because that's just ridiculous and ignorant. And so I'm very sorry that you had that experience, because and that's not to say that just because you go to an HBCU you're gonna be embraced by all black people, because we got our issues. I'm gonna be real with you.
I was gonna say something about that.
We got our issues,
cool.
But my experience at an HBCU, and I went on an HBCU college tour 2 years in a row, living in North Carolina, and it afforded me to go. We visited all the HBCUs, well, the majority of HBCUs up and down the East Coast, up until a certain point. You know, it cost, but it was really good. So we were exposed to a lot of the HBCUs, and a lot of the students who went got off acceptance letters and scholarships on the spot, because the people who were there, they really negotiated on our behalf. If you had a GPA and you had this, you had that, man, I got accepted in North Carolina Central and a full ride, but my heart was set on skiing. But if I didn't go to ski, that's where I was going. I was going to an HBCU. But that's not to say that all black people have positive experiences at HBCUs.
Well, Dr. H, some of us have been taught, I won't call out any of my family, but some of us were taught, we want you to have a real education. So we want you to go to Harvard, Duke, George Mason, whatever. But Al and I have the similar thing. People who know me know I don't share the same political views as 93% of black people. I don't share the same. Over there. I don't share the same political views all the time. And I was always told, whether I went to Congressional Black Caucus for the first time 4 years ago. And I got ate alive. And I didn't even say anything. Like, people already knew who I was, because it already was passed that he doesn't go to a black school, he doesn't share our same political views, blah, 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 blah. They did not let me sit at their table. And they prided themselves on, you're not black enough. So I'm not saying that's all people who are passionate about their education and viewpoints, but it's just saying that we do marginalize ourselves. We do segregate ourselves.
That's part of colorism, though. That's the issue.
Like, here's the thing: the ones who take the time to listen to me or hear where I stand, they realize that I'm actually more pro-black than they are. And you know me, you've seen. Anytime something happens to us with the police or anything, I go through the same thing that most black people go through with society. So that doesn't make me I get upset when I see Sheriff David Clark and Diamond and Silk people and Stacey Dash make ignorant ass comments, because they're just doing it for attention. It's, so I get it.
No, but all of that is colorism, though, and it's really sad, because this gentleman missed out on possibly a great experience. We will never know, but I just hate that. Again, that's within our own community. That's from within. We're tearing ourselves up from within. We're missing out on opportunities and connections and relationships, and it's really damaging us. Sometimes that we really want to be with another person based off of a perception. Like Alex said earlier, he used to want to be light-skinned until he grew into his self-worth. You know what I mean? I think that matters. I really think that these are the things that these kind of conversations help us, because our very first conversation was on interracial relationships. Like, almost, it was a year ago. One of our very first conversations was on interracial relationships.
We've been doing this a year almost. We have
almost a year. And one of the conversations, the video that I sent Piff, was about, the gentleman was talking about, you think you like white women or you like light-skinned women because of this and this. And he was going on about, the roots and origins of colorism, and how, a lot of, and again, it's just like I said, it's mental warfare. How a lot of this, like Horace said, indoctrination really affects how we navigate and move with our community. It's really hurting us. And at what point do we figure out how we just embrace who we are on every end of the rainbow and say, listen, I'm going to champion and support whatever you got. Like, it don't matter to me, because it's not robbing me of my peace. If that's what you want to do you. But I think that it's a whole, like, we can go on talking about colorism, but I think that there's just so much that goes into thinking that, one is better. Alan, this is true. Black women making light skin, or, people on the light end of the spectrum feeling out of style. But I think there's some light skinned women who might feel, or some dark skinned women who feel the same thing. They feel the same thing. So that's what I'm saying. Like colorism really don't make no sense because we all feel the same thing. From one end of the spectrum, I have been made to feel like I'm out of style because of my skin color.
What?
Or because of seriously, I'm not exotic enough. I'm in between. You know what I mean? So it's
What?
just
But the thing is, we're educated. That's the stupidest. I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. If anyone
Colorism overall, but see, that's why we have this conversation because colorism overall makes no sense.
One last thing I'm gonna say to want to address ink on your arms. Like I've been told that when I have ink on arms, I don't look dangerous. Whatever, it's art. I've literally know people who have less than I do who've been dark skinned and they are seen as thugs or criminals. So, like you said, it's that personification of being rough looking or rugged.
Yeah, thinking that dark skinned dudes, you expect them to be tatted all up and drug dealer and all this kind of stuff. When that's not true. Like that's not. I know some light bright, looking like a light bulb when it turned on. That's doing hard time, or has done hard time. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of the perception is not reality, but we think
movies. Movies do it too.
Big part
a lot of movies. Movies of
and movies and music and media. It all plays into all of our mindsets and our attitudes on colorism, and it's really ridiculous and how it's dividing us. And we need to use that bridge that's dividing us to connect us in all areas of our relationships with each other, whether we're friends or just platonic. I had elementary school friends who parents told them they couldn't play with me and my friends because my god brother, Lee Parker, darker than me, they couldn't play with us. And me and Letitia Meyer, they couldn't play with us because we were too dark. They was light skinned. They were, they had Asian in their family and they had this and they had that. They could not play with us because we weren't light enough. That's like in elementary school, they were imparting that to their kids that you can't play with them, not because they troublemakers, but then your child need to cheat off of my paper, need me to help you. So I'm good enough to help you get your education, but you can't play with me in the street. You know what I mean? That's a mindset. So it's crazy. Horace, get in because we heard from you in a minute. And we're going to close out a bit.
No, I was just listening to you guys. The conversation was great. Colorism is something I didn't know how to label until I understood the label. I think Piff mentioned it a while back. And then I just seen how it related to so many experiences that I had, whether it was my time when I was in the music industry, looking at how we interact in our urban communities, whether it's politics, whether it's travel. So, once you know better, you do better. So I thank Piff for bringing this conversation to the front.
Seriously.
I think it is so many different aspects. It's so many aspects to colorism that you could go in 100 different directions and still have tangible things that you need to discuss. Right. And I think we need to discuss it more because we need to be aware of our ignorance. A lot of stuff that we've been indoctrinated with, we don't even realize the impact that it's having on us day to day. And we think it's harmless, but it's subconsciously and mentally is really keeping us in a place that we need to step out of. So kudos to Piff. And I enjoyed the dialogue, but I encourage other people to have this conversation with their groups, at their water coolers, even the women empowerment groups or whatever group you're in. There's conversations that all of us have, and this is one of them, colorism, that way we can identify how we maybe put a slack on our own people. So thank you, Piff. Thank you, Dr. H, Jeff.
Yeah, Piff.
I mean, I feel like it was a great conversation. I think that a lot came out. We touched on almost every single thing from media to print to our own little, towns. So, how we grew up. It was a very, very, very dense conversation. I will say that, we're always going to ask questions, but as long as you're asking questions, that shows that you're just trying to learn, and I can appreciate that.
Right.
So Thank you guys
Yeah.
for letting me have the conversation.
Hey, it was good, girl. It was good. Jeff?
I said what I need to say. I think it's a good topic and everyone needs to hear it. I just wish more people would understand it because, like I said, I've been a victim to it. And I just hope that black is cool. Ain't nothing wrong with it. See, they try to perpetrate us in every way, shape, and form, but they don't want to respect us.
Right.
That's it.
I agree. I think that this was a phenomenal conversation. Every time I think that we have a conversation that tops all our conversations, we have another one that's just insightful. And this is one of those conversations that was insightful, even for all of us. It had me do some digging, even in talking with some family members. I got, again, on every end of the spectrum from light to dark, on both sides, from my Bahamian roots to, what I'm saying, my American roots. We're on both sides of the spectrum. I got it within my own family, and I've heard some pretty, jacked up things. You know what I'm saying? But like Horace said, sometimes when you have a relationship, you tease and you joke, but you don't realize the undertone. You don't realize the seed that is sowing and what it does to that person's psyche and the dynamics that goes on and what happens in their lives. Like Piff said, sometimes you experience colorism and don't even know that it's colorism because you live in your life and you find other ways to be able to navigate the world so you can get what you need to get out of it. And at the end of the day, I think that that's what it boils down to. That bridge of colorism that divides us, it doesn't have to divide us. It can really unite us, and we can really maintain that unity when we, again, like Alex said, get that self-esteem, focus on us and see our worth and our value, and see the value in coming together rather than divide and separate each other, and see what we can do to uplift each other and support. It don't matter if somebody that, no matter what end of the spectrum that they own, if they decide that they want to be with somebody that's outside the community, okay, I'm not going to tear them down. That's not going to do anything for us. You know what I mean? That's not doing anything for us as a people. Figure out how to unite. We got enough hell that we experience as Black people overall in this community, in this world, in the United States of America. Again, because there's so much of a fascination and an obsession with race. I believe that that's part of the problem of how we got to this issue of colorism. We have a fascination with race that it just becomes just so toxic to us as a people that we embrace it rather than seeing the underlying, what's happening and what it's doing to us as a people. So let's figure that out. I don't care what your desires are and what you want. Please don't let colorism keep you from what you want. If what you want, if colorism is keeping you from what you want, you better get like Kev on stage and create your own lane. That man got a whole app creating content, and he's on a mission to, guess what, hire as many Black creators as possible to Kev on Stage Studios. And I'm not saying that just to promote him. I'm saying that because he created a blueprint and he was just like, I don't care. I'm going to pave my way. And if colorism is keeping you from what you want, and I'm not saying colorism is kept him from what he wanted. It was COVID and some other barriers, but colorism is a barrier.
And he's doing it better. He's doing it the right way. Unlike Tyler Perry. Because Tyler Perry always demonizes the dark-skinned Black man.
He really do.
He demonizes dark-skinned Black people. I understand he's in the closet or whatever. Maybe he was bullied by dark-skinned Black men. I don't know what it is. But it puts it out there that it's really disgusting. So I like that Kev on Stage gives everyone a chance. So.
He really does. And I think that, and at the end of the day, when it comes to colorism and how we're going to get over it is, again, just celebrate and pave your own way. Listen, if somebody don't want to date you because you're not on the right end of the spectrum, don't be mad. Don't go tearing them down. Like Horace said, people will do that. Don't do that. Just move on because there's somebody out there for you. It's 8 billion people on this planet and counting. It's a whole lot of COVID babies about to be born. Come on now. Just stop. It ain't only one person on this earth for you. Don't do that to yourself. You know what I mean? Life is full of opportunities. If you can't find it, pave your way. Our next conversation is March 17th. Mark your calendar. We're going to let you know what the topic is. But we really want to appreciate you guys. Thank y'all so much for your engagement. Y'all really brought it in the comments. It was a great topic. If you have a topic that you want us to cover, feel free to, reach out to either one of us. And, we'll give it a conversation. We'll look into it and bring it to the forefront. These are our opinions. We have a different take on a lot of different things, but we appreciate y'all for joining us. And so we'll see y'all on the Black Hand side the next time. And we'll see y'all until the next time. Bye.